Hello everyone and welcome back to my holiday card series. Today I'm going to be making a card using an Avery Elle stamp set. I'm going to be doing some watercoloring, so I'm starting with a piece of Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock. I just took my powder bag and went over that so that there isn't any static electricity and I won't get stray embossing powder pieces on my project. I'm taking the birch tree image and I'm mounting this on my Fiskars stamp press. And I'm just going to ink this up with the Versamark ink. It's the clear sticky ink to use when you're heat embossing on your images. So I'm inking this up really well. I want to make sure that I don't get any images or any of the areas without embossing powder. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp this down onto the left side of that piece of cardstock. And I'm going to make sure that I press down on all areas of the stamp. And then once I feel like it's covered, I can lift that up. And then I'm going to go ahead and apply my embossing powder. So I'm using the liquid platinum embossing powder. I went ahead and applied it and made sure that it covered my image completely. I had a few stray embossing powder pieces, so I'm just going to take a paintbrush and brush those off. If you get a really skinny paintbrush, it helps when you're doing this so that you don't hit any of the other areas of your image. At the same time, I'm also going to heat emboss my sentiment, so I'll go ahead and ink that up with the Versamark ink and then stamp that right next to the trees on the right hand side. And then I'm going to use the same exact embossing powder, so I'll go ahead and apply that and tap it off, and then I'll heat emboss this with my heat tool. So now I'm going to watercolor my background. I'm using 4 different color distress inks. First I have the hickory smoke, and I'm just applying a little bit of each of these to my nonstick craft sheet. Then I have the iced spruce, the cracked pistachio, and lastly I have the pumice stone. So I want to go for a really subtle look in the background. So I'm going to take my water. It wasn't spraying very well, so I just took the cover off and dumped some on there. I got quite a bit, so it ended up being a really light background. So if you want more color in your background, definitely just add a little less water onto the distress ink. So I'm going to start with that hickory smoke and then just apply that to the background, and I'm not covering the entire background, just the area behind the trees and the sentiment. I'm not really going to either of the edges. And you can see it's really light, so it's really hard to see on camera what it actually looks like. But then I'm going in with the other colors and just adding little bits of it onto there, and you can see the colors starting to pool up behind those trees. They're really light and subtle in the background, so like I said, definitely add a little less water if you want them to show up more, but I like this light look and it helps those silver trees kind of stand out and pop on the card. So I went ahead and dried that, and now I'm going back in and adding a little bit of those colors, and I'm adding a little less water just so that they darken up a little bit. And that's the really nice thing about watercolors, is that you can build that color up. So you can dry one of the layers and then add more on top of it, and it just builds that color up and really brightens it on your card. And you'll be able to see in the finished product what this looks like, because it is a little bit difficult to see on the camera when it is still wet. And that's another thing too, when watercolor dries, it has a completely different look than when it is wet. So I'm also going to be adding these little birds that come in the stamp set. I'm going to ink these up with the Tuxedo Black Memento ink and then stamp them on a piece of Coordination's 110 pound cardstock. I'm going to do some really quick coloring. So I'm coloring these in with the red. I'm using an R39, so it's a little bit more of a darker red, garnet color. And I chose red because I really wanted them to stand out on the card. And the red is going to pop against that grayish green background. Then I just have to color in their little beaks with the YR04, and then I can fussy cut around the edges. So I'm matting my watercolor piece on a piece of black cardstock. So I'll go ahead and add some adhesive from my ATG gun. I want plenty of adhesive because it is warped a little bit from all of the watercolor I added. And then I can add some more adhesive to the back of the black cardstock, and then I'll adhere that down to my weight A2 size card base. So like I said, I wanted those birds to stand out on my card, so I'm going to use some 3D foam squares just to pop them up. I chose a large one, and then I just cut it in half with my non-stick scissors. And then I can add those to the little branch that is sticking out in the trees. So the last step, I'm going to add some of these snowflake mix sequins from Mint Owl Studio. So I'm just randomly scattering them on my card. And then I'm going to adhere them down with my multi-medium in the matte finish. So I just add a little dot behind each of them and then press them into the adhesive. Alright, and then that is my finished card for today, so I really hope you guys enjoyed this simple watercolor tutorial. If you want to try that on your card, I would love to see all of your creations. Make sure that you're subscribed to my channel so you don't miss any of my new videos, and I will see you back here next time. Bye everyone!